Have you ever wondered why a family of monsters needed a car that looked like it crawled out of a nightmare? Or why someone thought combining a hot rod with a hearse was the perfect family vehicle? The Munster Koach isn't just weird, it's a rolling contradiction that somehow became one of television's most iconic cars. Today we're counting down 20 bizarre facts about Herman's beloved coach that prove this Gothic hot rod was even stranger than the family who drove it. From its Frankenstein-like construction to the secrets hidden beneath that pearl black paint, these are the details that make the Munster Mobile one of the weirdest vehicles ever created for television. So buckle up, this ride's about to get bumpy. Number 20, the three-body monster. The coach wasn't built from one car or even two, it was literally assembled from three different Ford Model T bodies. Think about that for a second. Three separate cars had to die so this monster could live. George Barris and his team basically played Automotive Dr. Frankenstein, cutting up these vintage Ford bodies and stitching them together into one elongated beast. The front section came from one Model T, the middle from another, and the rear? You guessed it, a third Model T sacrificed for the cause. This wasn't just customization, this was automotive surgery. And just like Frankenstein's monster, the result was something that had never existed before and probably shouldn't have existed at all. The welding alone must have been a nightmare. Imagine trying to make three different car bodies, each with their own quirks and measurements, line up perfectly. It's like trying to make a suit out of three different suits. Sure, it might work, but it's going to look unusual. And that's exactly what they were going for. Number 19. The Frankenstein frame. Speaking of Frankenstein, the coach's frame was just as monstrous as its body. This wasn't some off-the-shelf chassis they modified. No, George Barris hand-built a custom frame that stretched 133 inches. Let that sink in. 133 inches of custom metalwork just to hold this Gothic nightmare together. That's over 11 feet of frame. For comparison, a modern sedan's wheelbase is usually around 110 inches. This thing was massive. The frame had to be specially engineered to support the weight of three car bodies welded together, plus all the ornamental metalwork, plus the Munster family. And remember, Fred Gwynne as Herman was 6 feet 5 inches tall and wearing platform boots. The frame had to handle all of that without flexing or breaking. It was essentially a custom bridge on wheels. Every piece had to be measured, cut, and welded by hand. No computer modeling, no precision machinery, just skilled craftsmen with torches and a really weird vision. Number 18, the 18-foot beast. The finished coach measured approximately 18 feet long. 18 feet. That's longer than most modern pickup trucks. It's about the length of a small moving van. In 1964, when parking spaces were already getting tighter and garages were built for normal-sized cars, someone decided to build an 18-foot-long custom car for a TV show. The length wasn't just for show, though it certainly made an impression. It was necessary to accommodate the stretched body made from three Model Ts. But think about the practical implications. Turning corners must have been an adventure. Parallel parking, forget about it. Three-point turns probably required 5 or 6 points, and this was supposed to be the family car. Imagine Lily Munster trying to navigate this beast through a grocery store parking lot. The length also created unique filming challenges. Camera angles had to be carefully planned to capture the entire car. Street scenes required extra space. Even the Universal Studios lot had to make accommodations for this automotive Leviathan. Number 17, blood red luxury. While TV audiences saw the coach in black and white, the interior was actually upholstered in blood red velvet. Not burgundy, not crimson, blood red. Because apparently, when you're designing a car for a family of monsters, subtlety goes right out the window. The choice of red velvet was deliberate and brilliant. Even though the show was filmed in black and white, the red velvet would appear as a rich, deep gray on screen, giving the interior a luxurious but sinister appearance. But imagine being on set and seeing this Gothic hot rod with its murdered-out exterior open up to reveal an interior that looked like it was upholstered in blood. The velvet wasn't just any velvet either. This was high-quality automotive-grade material that could withstand the rigors of filming. It had to look good under hot studio lights, survive multiple takes, and still photograph well in black and white. The blood red color was so specific that when restoration work was done years later, finding an exact match proved nearly impossible. Number 16. Black Pearl Perfection. The Coach's paint job wasn't just black, it was black pearl, a sophisticated paint that contained actual pearl essence to give it depth and shimmer. This wasn't your basic black spray paint from a can. This was a custom mixed multi-coat paint job that would make modern car enthusiasts weep with envy. Black pearl paint contains tiny metallic or mica flakes that catch and reflect light, creating a subtle shimmer effect. In direct sunlight, the Coach would actually appear to shift between deep black and dark purple. Under studio lights, it would gleam with an otherworldly quality that regular black paint could never achieve. The painting process was painstaking, multiple base coats, then the pearl coat, then clear coats to protect it all. Each layer had to be perfectly applied and allowed to cure. One mistake, and they'd have to start over. Remember, this was 1964. No modern paint booths or computer-controlled spray systems, just skilled painters with spray guns and a really steady hand. Number 15. 500 hours of scroll work. The ornate metal scroll work on the Coach took 500 hours to complete. 500 hours, that's over 12 work weeks of just bending, shaping, and welding decorative metal. That's 3 months of full-time work just on the decorative elements. Every curve, every spiral, every Gothic flourish was hand-formed from steel. No casting, no stamping. Each piece was individually crafted by skilled metal workers who probably thought they were building a car, not creating art. But that's exactly what they were doing. The scroll work wasn't just decorative, it was functional too. It helped hide the seams where the 3 Model T bodies were joined together. It reinforced stress points. It added structural rigidity to areas that needed it. Form followed function, but in this case, function was wearing a very elaborate costume. The level of detail was insane. Look closely at photos of the Coach and you'll see that no 2 pieces of scroll work are exactly identical. Each was a unique creation, bent and shaped by hand to fit its specific location on the car. Number 14. Lanterns and horns. Instead of modern headlights, the Coach featured old-fashioned lantern lights and air horns, giving it a distinctly 19th century hearse vibe. Because nothing says family car like making it look like something that would transport coffins in Victorian London. The lantern lights were functional. They actually worked and were wired into the car's electrical system. But they provided about as much illumination as you'd expect from lanterns. Good thing most of the driving scenes were filmed on a closed set with plenty of studio lighting. The air horns were another throwback touch. Not an electric horn like modern cars, but actual air horns that required a compressed air system. When Herman honked the horn, it didn't beep, it bellowed. The sound was supposedly loud enough to rattle windows on the Universal lot. These anachronistic touches weren't accidents. They were deliberate design choices to make the Coach feel out of time, like it could have been built in any era from the 1800s to the 1960s. It was a rolling temporal anomaly which fit perfectly with the Munsters' fish out of water premise. Number 13. The Tombstone radiator. The brass radiator was shaped like a tombstone because apparently the hearse aesthetic needed to be really driven home. This wasn't a subtle nod to Gothic design, this was a full-on embrace of cemetery chic. The Tombstone radiator was custom fabricated from brass, shaped and polished to perfection. It wasn't just decorative, it was a functional radiator that actually cooled the engine. But instead of hiding it behind a grille like normal cars, the Coach displayed it proudly, like a badge of Gothic honor. The brass had to be constantly polished to maintain its shine. Brass tarnishes quickly, especially when exposed to heat and the elements. The prop department probably spent hours keeping that Tombstone radiator looking pristine for filming. The shape was so distinctive that it became one of the Coach's most recognizable features. Even in silhouette, you could identify the Munster Koach by that tombstone-shaped radiator. It was branding before branding was cool. Number 12. Hot rod suspension. The front end used a dropped axle, split radius rods, and T-springs. Classic hot rod suspension components that gave the Coach its aggressive stance. This wasn't just a show car that looked fast, it was built like an actual hot rod. The dropped axle lowered the front end, giving the Coach that classic nose-down attitude that hot rodders love. It made the car look like it was ready to pounce, even when it was standing still. The split radius rods provided lateral stability while allowing for the drop stance. These were racing components, not something you'd find on a typical family car of the era. The T-springs were another hot rod touch. These transverse leaf springs were lighter than conventional springs and gave the car a rougher, more aggressive ride. perfect for a monster who probably didn't care much about comfort anyway. This suspension setup meant the coach handled more like a race car than a limousine. It would have been stiff, responsive, and probably pretty uncomfortable on anything but smooth roads. Number 11. Herman's driving position. Here's where things get really weird. Fred Gwynne, who played Herman, often had to sit on the floor behind the wheel to drive the coach because his costume made normal seating impossible. Imagine being 6 feet 5 inches tall, wearing platform boots that add another few inches, and trying to fit behind the wheel of a car while wearing a foam rubber head and padding. It wasn't happening. So the solution? Herman drove from the floor. They'd position Fred Gwynne on the floorboards where he could reach the pedals and see through the windshield while making it look like he was sitting normally. It was movie magic at its most uncomfortable. This meant that many of the driving scenes were actually filmed with the car stationary, using rear projection or other effects. When the coach did need to move with Herman driving, it was often towed or pushed by crew members out of frame. The few times Fred Gwynne actually drove the coach himself must have been terrifying for everyone involved. A 6.5-foot man in full monster makeup, barely able to see, piloting an 18-foot custom car around a studio lot. What could go wrong? Number 10. The one and only original. Only one original coach was built for the TV series and feature film. One, that's it. No backup, no stunt double, just one hand-built, irreplaceable custom car that had to survive 2 seasons of television and a feature film. Think about the pressure that put on everyone. This wasn't a car you could just replace if something went wrong. Every driving scene, every stunt, every shot had to be carefully planned to protect this one-of-a-kind vehicle. If someone crashed it, the show would have been in serious trouble. The lack of a backup also meant maintenance was critical. The coach had to be kept in perfect running condition at all times. Any mechanical failure could shut down production. The prop department probably had nightmares about something happening to their star car. This single car had to do everything. Close-ups, driving scenes, beauty shots, even promotional appearances. It was worked harder than most star cars with no understudy waiting in the wings. Number 9. The 1984 Twin. In 1984, 20 years after the original, Dick Dean was authorized to build a second coach for parades and car shows. This wasn't some cheap knockoff. It was an authorized recreation built to the same specifications as the original. Dick Dean had to study the original coach extensively, taking measurements, photos, and notes to ensure his recreation was accurate. Remember, this was before the internet. He couldn't just download blueprints or watch YouTube videos. Everything had to be done the old-fashioned way. The 1984 coach was built to be more roadworthy than the original. While the TV car just had to work on a closed set, this one needed to survive parades, car shows, and highway driving. It was reinforced in key areas and given a more reliable drivetrain. The existence of this second coach has caused confusion over the years. Some people think there were always 2 cars. Others don't realize the second one wasn't built until 20 years later. But both are legitimate coaches, just from different eras. Number 8. The Volo Museum Home. Today, the original coach lives at the Volo Auto Museum in Illinois, where it's one of the star attractions. After decades of Hollywood life, the coach finally found a permanent home where it's treated like the automotive artwork it is. The Volo Museum doesn't just display the coach, they maintain it, preserve it, and occasionally start it up for special events. Hearing that Ford engine rumble to life is like hearing a piece of television history speak. The car is displayed alongside other famous TV and movie cars, but the coach always draws a crowd. There's something about its Gothic presence that captures attention even among other celebrity vehicles. Visitors often comment on how much bigger it is in person than they expected. Television has a way of normalizing the unusual, but standing next to the coach, you realize just how monumentally weird this creation really is. The museum has to constantly balance preservation with display. Every photo, every touch, every moment of operation puts wear on this irreplaceable piece of television history. Number 7. The $18,000 Monster. The original build cost in 1964 was approximately $18,000. In today's money, that's roughly $160,000 for a custom car, for a TV show, in the 1960s. To put that in perspective, you could buy a nice house in 1964 for $18,000. A new Corvette cost about $4,000. The producers of the Munsters essentially paid house money for a prop car, but it wasn't just a prop, it was a character. The coach appeared in almost every episode, often getting its own beauty shots. It was as important to the show as any of the human actors, maybe more so, since it never demanded a raise or complained about working conditions. That $18,000 bought more than just a car, it bought an icon. The coach became so associated with the Munsters that it's impossible to imagine the show without it. It was worth every penny. The build cost also reflects the level of craftsmanship involved. This wasn't a quick customization job. This was months of skilled labor by some of the best custom car builders in Hollywood. Number 6. The collectible legacy model kits and die-cast versions of the coach have been reissued countless times since the 1960s, making it one of the most reproduced TV cars ever. From the original AMT model kit to modern, highly detailed replicas, the coach has never gone out of production. Every generation of monster kids has had the chance to build their own miniature coach. The original model kits from the 60s are now valuable collectibles themselves. A mint-in-box AMT coach kit can sell for hundreds of dollars. Even build kits in good condition command respectable prices. The die-cast versions range from cheap toy store finds to elaborate limited editions costing hundreds of dollars. Some are so detailed they include the blood red interior and working steering. The merchandising success of the coach proves its lasting appeal. It's not just nostalgic adults buying these models. Kids who have never seen the show are still attracted to this Gothic hot rod. There's something timelessly cool about its design. The coach has appeared in slot car sets, remote control versions, even Christmas ornaments. If you can put the coach on it or in it, someone has probably made it. Number 5. Tom Daniel's Lost Design. The original design sketch by Tom Daniel included a supercharger, hood scoop, and thin round disc lights, elements that never made it to the final car. These drawings reveal a coach that might have been even more radical than what we got. Tom Daniel was a legendary custom car designer known for his wild show rods and model car designs. His initial vision for the coach was more hot rod than Hearse, with exposed engine components and a more aggressive stance. The supercharger would have jutted through the hood, chrome velocity stacks gleaming. The hood scoop would have fed air to that blown engine. The disc lights would have been thoroughly modern, a contrast to the Victorian touches. But George Barris and the producers had a different vision. They wanted Gothic, not just cool. They wanted a car that looked like it belonged in a monster family's garage, not at a drag strip. The final design balanced hot rod performance with the Hearse aesthetics perfectly. Some of Daniel's ideas did influence the final design. The aggressive stance, the hot rod proportions, the sense of barely contained power, all of that came from his initial sketches. The coach we got was a collaboration between two design visions. Number 4. Racing slicks and stance. The coach rolled on wide racing slicks in the rear and narrow wheels up front, giving it the stance of a serious hot rod despite its Gothic appearance. This wasn't just for looks, it was functional hot rod design. Those wide rear tires provided the traction needed to move the coach's considerable weight. Remember, this thing was made from 3 cars and weighted down with ornamental metalwork. It needed all the grip it could get. The narrow front tires reduced rolling resistance and gave the car that classic hot rod rake. It looked fast standing still, like it was permanently accelerating even when parked. This wheel and tire combination was pure Southern California hot rod culture. It said, "I'm built for speed," even though the coach probably never went much faster than 30 miles per hour on set. The stance also affected how the car photographed. The aggressive rake made it look more dramatic on camera, more imposing. It filled the frame in a way a level car never could. Even today, that stance defines the coach's silhouette. Change the wheels and tires, and it wouldn't be the same car. Number 3. The missing skull. Here's a detail that surprises many fans. The famous skull radiator cap wasn't on the original 1960s TV car. That Gothic touch was added during later restorations, becoming so iconic that people assume it was always there. The original coach had a more conventional radiator cap, probably brass to match the Tombstone radiator. It was still custom, still special, but not the grinning skull everyone remembers. The skull cap was likely added in the 70s or 80s when the coach was being prepared for car shows. Someone decided it needed that extra Gothic touch, and the skull was perfect. It matched the show's macabre humor perfectly. Now, the skull is so associated with the coach that replicas and models always include it. It's been retconned into Munsters history, becoming more real than reality. This kind of evolution is common with famous cars. They get modified over the years, and sometimes the modifications become more famous than the original. The coach's skull is a perfect example of an improvement becoming canon. The skull also represents how the coach has grown beyond its TV origins to become a cultural icon that can be reimagined and improved while still remaining true to its Gothic hot rod roots. Number 2. Herman's costume challenges. The practical challenges of filming with the coach went beyond Fred Gwynne sitting on the floor. His full Herman costume made every entrance and exit a carefully choreographed operation that the audience never saw. The Herman costume included platform boots, padding to create his square shoulders, and that massive foam rubber head. The costume severely limited Gwynne's mobility and vision. Getting in and out of the coach required assistance from multiple crew members. The doors had to be opened fully. Gwynne had to duck his head at just the right angle to clear the roof. The padding would catch on the door frame. The boots made finding the pedals difficult. Every time you see Herman casually hop into the coach on screen, remember that it probably took 5 takes and 3 crew members to make it look easy. The costume also affected how scenes were shot. Close-ups of Herman driving were often filmed separately from wide shots of the car moving. It was easier to film Gwynne stationary than to have him actually drive in full costume. The coach's interior had to be modified between shots to accommodate different camera angles and Gwynne's costume. Seats would be removed, pedals adjusted, even the steering wheel repositioned. It was like rebuilding the car for each scene. Number 1. Lily's birthday surprise. The weirdest fact about the coach might be its origin story within the show. According to Munsters lore, Lily bought a hot rod roadster and a 1920s hearse, then had them rushed to a custom shop to be combined into the coach as a birthday surprise for Herman. Let that sink in. Lily's gift idea was to take 2 completely different vehicles and have them Frankensteined together. It's the most Munster gift ever. Practical, thoughtful, and completely insane. This backstory is perfect because it explains why the coach looks like it does. It's not trying to be one thing or another. It's literally 2 different cars forced to become one, just like the Munster family is different creatures forced to live as one unit. The timeline is also insane. Custom cars take months or years to build. Lily apparently had this massive project completed as a surprise, meaning Herman never noticed his wife buying 2 cars and having them sent to a shop. The backstory also raises questions. Which custom shop in the Munsters universe was equipped to handle such a request? Did they specialize in monster cars? Was this a normal request for them? The idea that someone could walk into a shop and say combine these 2 cars into one and have it happen is wonderfully absurd. But that's the Munsters in a nutshell. A world where the absurd is normal and the normal is weird. And there you have it. 20 facts that prove the Munster Koach was even weirder than the family who drove it. From its 3-body construction to Lily's insane birthday gift backstory, this Gothic hot rod remains one of television's strangest creations. Which facts surprised you the most? Did you know about the missing skull or Herman's floor driving technique? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let us know what other TV cars deserve the weird facts treatment. If you enjoyed this cruise through Mockingbird Lane's garage, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into television's strangest vehicles. Ring that notification bell too, you won't want to miss our next weird ride. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the best cars are the ones that probably shouldn't exist at all.